Hello, my name is Clara Maveglia and I founded the Cultural Entrepreneurship Institute in Berlin. Today I'm in Capri and my guest is Paolo Signorini, the owner of the Hotel Cesare Augustus. Welcome, Mr. Signorini. Buongiorno, signor Paolo. Che piacere averla qui.
Hello, Mr. Signorini. Very nice to have you here and very nice to be here as well.
Presentarsi personalmente.
Maybe you could introduce yourself. Well, my name is Paolo Signorini. I am the owner of this hotel and I arrived here in 1995. And I didn't know anything about hotels. I was simply someone who was a member of a family which owned this hotel, but it was managed by others. This hotel was really dilapidated. And I was convinced that since I did not have any experience, it would be the best thing to sell the hotel. Well, and this is where another adventure of my life started, because I had never seen this place before. And I decided to sell it because I thought this was a reasonable thing to do. I think I should not take care of something which was in a bad state, where I didn't have any experience whatsoever. In one way or another, the place prevented me from doing this, and it stopped me from doing it. You can't leave. You need to take care of me throughout your whole life. And I think that this is something very special about places. It's like as if the places command and they oblige you to do something. And this is what I did. On the one hand, I felt a prisoner. On the other hand, I felt very inspired by this. Very interesting. But what was the determining factor for you to listen to this inner voice of yours? A lot of people don't really listen to their inner voice, do they? Well, in my opinion, it was the uniqueness of this place. It seems like a divine place to me. And I've always been a businessman, someone who has always thought in a rational manner. I had the feeling, which was not logical, but it was an emotional feeling. So I thought, well, that it was a strange feeling, I have to say. I thought that if I did not take care of this beautiful place, then somehow I would be punished. I don't know who by, maybe by the place or God, because in fact, this was an opportunity that opened up to stay in this beautiful place and do something for this beautiful place. And if I had not done it, I would have been a coward. I had this feeling then. And this was very emotional, it is true. Those who knew me thought, well, he got caught up in a dream. And as a matter of fact, I got caught up in a dream. But this dream became something more reasonable gradually. This was an ability to understand and also to let myself be guided by the place so as to do justice to this place and to give to the place what it deserved. That is, to make sure that this place would again be what it used to be in the recent past. It's a beautiful place. Maybe you could talk to us about the story, the history of this place, because what you see, first of all, is the statue of Caesar Augustus. We know that Capri was an island very much liked by the emperors. Maybe you can talk about the history of the island. Well, the story is a long one, and you rightfully pointed out that Capri was important during the Roman times. The Romans discovered this island, which was unique. According to the story told the historians who studied the history in the 18th and 19th century, everybody was convinced that Tiberius Augustus, who was the third emperor, was the one who discovered this island. In fact, though, Tiberius was the one who spent most of the time here. He ran the Roman Empire from Capri. He stayed in Capri for 9 years without it ever going back to Rome. So he left his mark on this island. And this is exactly where the story of Caesar Augustus comes into play. At a certain moment of time, in 1900, a Russian prince arrived who possibly had understood that Russia would no longer be suitable for princes because the revolution was just around the corner. And he moved to this region, he discovered this place, so there was a small house, he bought it and converted it into a vast residence. He spent happy years here in this place. He was a historian who studied history. By deepening his knowledge about history, he discovered that, in fact, it was the predecessor of Tiberius, that is, Octavius Caesar Augustus, who came here first. And he's the Roman discoverer of the island, the true discoverer. And this is why he wanted to place the statue here, which is a famous statue. It is a 19th century copy of the statue of Augustus of Prima Porta. It had been discovered shortly before, namely in Rome in 1840. And he wanted to place the statue here because by coincidence this is exactly in front of the villa of Tiberius, which is located on the cape at a level lower than this one here. And then there's this gesture, there's a tombstone with a Latin inscription. The Russian prince wrote this. As I said, there is this gesture, there is this highest position on the island, and it says, no, it is I who discovered this place first, this place which is worthy of an emperor. Maybe you can answer a question which one asks oneself when coming here, albeit only for a few days. Can you get used to so much beauty? Well, I believe in one thing. I think that there are so many types of beauty. If you get used to one type of beauty, it's as if it's eaten up everything, it's finished. However, if you're able to see the arising of beauty every single day, if you see this new beauty, and if you're able to discover this beauty in a different hue, in a different scent, then this beauty becomes what it really is. It becomes an immortal beauty. And this also means that this is neither thanks to nor due to beauty. Beauty is something that exists, that is inherent, but beauty is important because you see it with your eyes, and if eyes are able to see a new beauty every single day, well, so as to answer your question, then you don't really get used to so much beauty, because if you got used to beauty, then in this unchanged way, beauty would have become something that is already faded and it is no longer of any use to anybody. And then there's something else that is really important. I feel that I've got a mission here. I am the one who accommodates and welcomes and is also very happy to accommodate new guests every single day. That is, people who see this beauty for the very first time. If I had defined beauty already as something of the past, then I would no longer be able to pass on this feeling. And this is what I try to do every single day, to meet people who see this beauty in a different perspective, and they talk to me about it. This is also good for me, because this is something new for me, and it makes me discover other aspects of this beauty. To conclude, I can say, no, I don't get used to this beauty. Every single day I discover something new. And I tell myself, well, you've been here for 25 years now, and you had not seen this thing. I had not been amazed by it yet, as in this particular day, maybe because there was a different light or a different wind, a different background, or simply because I was different or in a different state of mind. Thank you. This is really fascinating. You converted this historical residence to become a luxury hotel. However, earlier, you talk to me about your conception of luxury, which is very much linked to the environment and an ethical conception of the world. And your philosophy, I wanted to ask you, what does luxury mean to you today?
Il lusso, secondo me, è un qualche cosa che cambia.
In my opinion, luxury is something that is continually changing. Above all, the term luxury is not a beautiful word, because this is a stereotype and it somehow means to amaze people. To amaze them with something that is amazing, because you don't see it every day, because it's different, it is more shining, more brilliant, more brighter maybe, or maybe because it's a bigger brilliant, hence it is more luxurious. However, we all know that this is not true, because if you're familiar with brilliance, then you know that a small brilliant can be more beautiful than a big one. So what is luxury? Luxury means to know how to discover beauty inside things. And the modern concept of luxury does not really mean to amaze people with things that can't see them or can't afford them. I think it is to make people see things in a human way. Something that is amazing, not because it's more shining or bigger or greener or more yellow, but because these things are made available to people in a special way. Like people who come here, they must feel not just but one of many, but they must feel unique. And this is what I do and what we all do together here in my group, in my family of the Caesar Augustus Hotel. That is to welcome every single guest in this hotel as if he or she were a member of the family, with all the respect due, of course. That is, we really want to involve people in the life of this place. And I always tell my staff that we don't sell things. We don't sell whiter bed sheets, we don't sell softer pillows, we don't sell fancier or more tasteful dishes. It is logical that all these things must be either beautiful or, if possible, perfect. But we don't sell these things. We sell dreams. Dreams are what make things be extraordinary. If you stop dreaming, things simply become things. Also beauty, as we said earlier on, beauty becomes something static that is finished. However, if you manage to keep yourself inside this dream of beauty, then the dream will never end. There are no limits to the dream, and there are no limits to beauty. I would like to explore this further, because you do not only sell dreams, you also sell new tastes and flavors. You started here organic vegetable garden in this field of luxury. Sorry for repeating this word. This is a 5-star hotel. You make people taste herbs that grow here, or a marmalade that is used for breakfast is made of oranges that grow here. Biological, organic oranges. So luxury in this hotel also means to go back to the roots and to discover all the local tastes and flavors of produce growing here in this environment. To you, it's not important to import a mango from Asia, say, but you want to make people taste local flavors, and this is very important and very innovative. And this is also very important so as to broaden one's own range of flavors. And well, I don't know how to put it, but to also broaden one's own range of experiences. You told me that it is not gold that glitters more. It's a tomato that grows here in this air under this sun, for instance. Well, first of all, thank you very much for telling me these beautiful things, but I don't think that I've done anything extraordinary. I rather think that this is simply an evolution. you look at these things with your eyes, you look at the present, but also into the future. What are the things that need to be brought to the fore? 100 years ago, everybody used to eat these things, that is, local vegetables that are ripe in a certain place at a certain moment in time. And then global relationships developed. What happened? Early produce were considered to be better, but these are products that shouldn't really be there at a certain moment of time. It is logical when the first mandarins arrived, then they are more interesting than the apples that have been there for quite some time already. But this was pushed further and further. Mandarins were then imported from other countries when they were not seasonal here in this place. And what I did is simply I drew the attention of all my guests to this fact. I want to make them see what we cultivate here, and this is different to what is grown elsewhere in other regions of the world, because every place has its tradition. And here, for instance, certain things grow better. Potatoes, for instance, grow better in Central Europe than here in the southern countries. But here, tomatoes are better. And then it is also right that people enjoy them. And when do they enjoy these fruits and vegetables? When they are ripe, and not when this is just early produce, not when, again, you want to amaze people. And again, this is this term which one shouldn't use. It is important to make people see these things, but if we import oranges from Florida, then they arrive out of season, of course, but we want to make people taste seasonal things, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's. This is simply what we do. And of course, I have made sure that people increasingly understand that fresh produce, products that have been harvested the very same day, are more tasty than things that were imported from Africa and were stored in a fridge for 2 months. This is all. This is a very simple process. It means to make sure that things are like they used to be in the past. And then so many of us say, well, I remember how we used to eat 30 years ago, when I was a little boy, for instance, everything was better, more tasty. This is not true. Foodstuff was not transported. You ate what was tasty and ripe at a certain moment of time, and that's all. And I believe that this also means to recognize the values of local traditions, but it also has an ecological significance in one way or another. It is not only about having an organic vegetable gardens and not using chemical products, etc., but it is important not to transport all this stuff, because sometimes it is bulky and heavy stuff, and you have to transport it over thousands of kilometers, and this is fuel consuming, of course. I think if we all ate and drank local produce, we could reduce many of these consignments. We all know, although we don't really mention it very often, but we all know that these shipments truly pollute the air because they are fuel consuming. So if we consume and eat local produce, we can reduce the environmental impact. Most certainly we need to admit that if there weren't any airplanes, we wouldn't have any guests coming from Australia, for instance. Unfortunately, yes, but we offset this as well. We tell these people, once you've arrived here, eat fresh things that are grown locally. And this is how we can compensate this. Yes, of course, it's one way of solving this dilemma. Well, you are truly a cultural entrepreneur. I wanted to ask you how important this new type of entrepreneurship is today. Because this entrepreneurship pays tribute to our cultural heritage. At the same time, it tries to solve social problems. It's not only about maximizing profit. You have been an entrepreneur in a different way throughout your life. How important do you think is this different approach? Because you do it differently nowadays. This is the story of industrialization. It started in the 19th century when the steam engine was invented, when electricity was discovered. All of a sudden things changed rather quickly. The entire lifestyle changed. For thousands of years, there was this gradual progression of small steps, and then everything happened so suddenly. When Guglielmo Marconi invented the radio, all of a sudden our voices, which earlier had an outreach of possibly 30 or 40 meters, and a speaker could talk to people in a square, all of a sudden our voices could be transported over hundreds of kilometers and could cross the ocean as well. This made people be very enthusiastic. Rightfully so, I suppose, but maybe it put us somewhat under an intoxicating influence as well. People always wanted to have more extraordinary things. The businessmen of the 19th century then dedicated themselves to this new invention, to mechanics. Mechanics were fascinating for people, and maybe people were then neglected. All the workers that were behind this, these were new things, and these machines all of a sudden gave an added value to each arm and each hand of the workers. Then we got used to machines. This was nothing new really, and we started to discover that machines function better when people are happy. When people are more personally involved in all this. And this is normal, of course. I have not discovered anything. I suppose that I simply interpret this with possibly 20 minutes or 1 year in advance. Now I feel something which someone else might have felt 1 year earlier, and someone else might discover this very same thing in 1 year's time. And I think that this is part and parcel of life. It is also part of being an enlightened businessman, because if you're not like this, then you're already lagging behind. And if you want to be successful, and let's speak frankly, I believe that every businessman wants to be successful. To be successful, he must do something that is innovative. To be innovative today means to again place a strong emphasis on people and make them become as important as they used to be. Make them discover that machines are very, very important, but even the most modern things, such as, say, an iPhone, which is something great and fantastic, but if it is not in the hands of the right person, if the person using the iPhone is not a happy person, then the joy of owning this thing is short-lived and does not make you happy. Very interesting indeed. Now I would like to talk about this place. This is a guest residence. And I would like to ask you the following. Everything seems very natural here, because based on what you've told us, but how much discipline is to be found behind this first semblance and appearance of naturalness? And maybe you can talk about your work. Maybe you can describe it. Well,
non voglio essere
Well, at this point, I don't want to be presumptuous. I am the one who, in one way or another, brought this to light, shed new light to this place, but not because this is new, but simply because I discovered there's a light to this place which can be brought to bear. And to do this, as you said earlier, I've done so many other things. But in any case, in the past, I wasn't a hotel owner. So maybe this is a small disadvantage, the disadvantage of not knowing how things are being done, but it might also be an advantage. What kind of advantage? Well, if you know how to do things, because there's a certain tradition, and if you need to do something, you do it in a very special way. And if you ask yourself, why do you do it like this? Then you say, well, we've always done it like this. I didn't know how to do things, so I had to invent things very often. And I looked into the eyes of my customers to see what they thought. I was listening to their words, I observed their behavior, and I wanted to see whether there was a return, a pleasure, a satisfaction. And I adapted myself to this. And this brings us back to what luxury is. This was your earlier question. Luxury means to be happy. And also to make others happy. This is the new type of luxury. What does that mean? It means that you need to discover in the eyes of your customers what they like. And I am the one who tries to discover this, but I also teach this to my employees to discover these things. Sometimes we meet and discover these small things which make customers enjoy themselves. At this stage, we become like composers who write down the things that they discover. The new harmonies are written down by them. They don't write them down so that they remain written like this. No, it's rather something written that is developing continuously, and then we adhere to these writings. Because in a certain way, I'm like a musician, and I also try to make sure that all the others become musicians. I also write music, and I'm also a conductor who makes sure that this music is interpreted differently every single day. Maybe it is then more consistent with and personalized for the individual customers. Fantastic. Well, now you do have 20 years of experience since 1995. Maybe you can tell us what the determining factor is when it comes to enjoying one's holidays. Prior to answering your question, I would like to point out something else. You said, yes, I do have experience now. The important thing is not to think that one's own experience is final, because your own experience is something that also belongs to the past, already belongs to the past. It is important to be interested in new experiences. And what are these new experiences? And now I'm going to answer your question. It means to realize and perceive slowly but surely what new customers want. What are the things they expect? Normal things for them. In a place like this one, everything that is not at least almost perfect is taken for granted by them. But you can give an added value to all this, which is the following one. You can make sure that customers are more delighted, they enjoy themselves even better. There is no secret about it. Well, actually, there are so many secrets as there are so many people who come here. It is important to anticipate the desires of customers, which are different depending on the customer. And this means to treat every customer like an individual, extraordinary person, and not just like one in a crowd of money. This is all. This is everything. Of course, in a place like this, I have to say this is rather small. We only have 56 rooms, and sometimes we might get in touch with 100 persons a day who, however, remain here for a few days. Maybe in a place like this, it is easier to do it because it's easier to give an identity to all the customers. But we don't do this because it is an obsession of ours, but because we like it, we've got a passion for it, and I can tell you that this is really a difference. Yes, of course. That is, to go on holidays also means to hand over responsibility of everyday life. As you do it when you're a child, you've got your mother, your parents taking care of things. Do you sometimes feel like the mother of your guests? I like discovering new things. This is the way I am. And if these new things make me be really excited, I like sharing these emotions with my guests, and also I like to test this emotion. And I do not want to be an obstacle to my guests with my emotions, because everybody has his or her own emotions, and I confine myself to making available, or in one way or another make known certain aspects of things that can be done in a place like this one here. For example, I suggest what could be visited. And sometimes I find myself describing an ideal day to a guest. Or I have my staff do that. This is something beautiful because it serves two purposes. First of all, it is also an appreciation of the guest, but it also is an appreciation of staff because they become like the magic authors of these discoveries, in inverted commas, of these things that guests can discover. But we must not limit them or push this too far, because otherwise we would limit the journey of each customer, which is a journey that has been made by so many already. We must give as much freedom as possible to our guests. We can make suggestions, of course, but what is really important is that each guest can discover this place and surroundings in his or her own way. We must bear in mind one thing, and I said this earlier. Guests are here either to start a dream or to continue their dream, but they must make their own dreams, not our dreams. Why? And this is something very simple, because my dream, to me, sorry to say this, but my dream is much better than yours, and I'm convinced that vice versa. Your dream for you is much better than my dream. And this is not something generous. It is simply a matter of healthy selfishness. If I force customers to follow my dreams, I rob them of their dreams. And if I rob them of their dreams, I take part of their happiness away from them. And that's all. You can also find this in modern times, in modern school. In the past, you had the teacher in school, and the teacher told you how you had to do things. Nowadays, however, a good teacher teaches you to open your eyes and see things. See them in your way, and this is much more creative, I think. And above all, it also means that pupils will have a more fulfilling future, or in any case, a more interesting future, if I confine myself to doing things like I have been told. Then certainly I will be well on track, as it were. But if within the things that have been told to me, I manage to discover new things, other things, then I will make headway and I will be more satisfied. And in a certain way, I will also be able to pass on this happiness and satisfaction to others. A question regarding the island. What characterizes the life on an island?
Beh, la vita su un'isola è diversa dalla vita.
The life on an island is different compared to a life in a more spacious territory. Why? Because everybody knows that an island and the life on an island is more concentrated because there are certain limits. Maybe an island offers paths to you, more restricted paths to say, but maybe it also gives you the time to take them all and then to choose the one you like best if you are in the open country. You do have thousands of directions that you can take, and possibly you choose one and you abandon 999. On an island, though, I can say that an island helps you. You are restrained by it for sure, but at the same time it gives you the possibility to explore the place and the possibilities more to the full. You mean going deeper? Yes, exactly. Interesting. You told us really fascinating things. One question. What do you want to put your energies into in the future? I am really happy and I thank God every single day about my life and for the things that I've done in my life. Luckily, I've been successful with these things, and I mention luck because I believe that good luck is very important in this respect. It goes without saying that you develop a stronger passion for the last things that you've accomplished. And at this moment of time, and maybe maybe because I did not have a past as a hotel owner, I believe that the Caesar Augustus Hotel has been most rewarding for me. I've done it bit by bit, learning in the process. This is a new way of life to me as well. Perhaps, also given my age, I think that this will be my last venture. So what do I focus on? I focus on all the things that I've done by improvising every single day, and I want to make sure that all this remains manageable for others as well. So I focus on the people, that is my employees, my staff, the people who have helped me, to make sure that once I will no longer have the energies to make all these things, that it will not disappear, but that it will remain here and will be something alive which is developing every day. Also, when Paolo, the creator, will no longer be here to do these things. And this will be beautiful because it allows me to think about all my employees in a different way, involving all of them. I want to make them see what they can do every day. It is something that can arise from all my employees every day. One day I hope... well, there are two possibilities. Either the hour will draw nigh and God will want to call me home, or else I will increasingly take a back seat, and this is what I've decided to do.
cosa straordinaria che Cesare
And this is this extraordinary thing about Caesar Augustus. I want to make sure that the hotel will remain without conductor, but with so many musicians who know how to play music together. This is very moving indeed.
Il messaggio che a me affascina di più
The message that is most fascinating for me, and you've told us so many things, is very important because you make us understand how ethics
abbia anche a che fare col piacere.
is also linked to pleasure and to enjoy life. A lot of people think that ethics are linked to an aesthetic life, to life which is aesthetic. Based on everything that you've said and shown your passion, you have convinced us of the opposite, and you have thus confirmed the work we do. Maybe you can comment on this.
Secondo me quello che lei ha detto è molto bello.
Well, what you've said is very beautiful, but also very complicated.
L'etica è una parola molto
Ethics is a very complex term.
di cui tutti
It is a word which is on everybody's lips, but as a matter of fact,
che tutto quello che non è etico
everything that is not ethical is
breve,
extremely short-lived
ancora più mortale.
and is even more mortal than our mortality. It makes things die rapidly. What I would like to point out is that what we call ethics are all the things
Hanno nel suo proprio
that inherent to them have a reason why they can continue. And this continuation doesn't mean that they have to continue as always. This would condemn them to stagnation, but they can again and again create something new from within themselves. And I believe that this is the difference between something ethical and unethical. Something unethical can be something beautiful, but it will be gone in the twinkling of an eye.
che è capace di riprodursi
This is something that can be reproduced, become better, and evolve above all. Wonderful.
Ora che siamo arrivati
Now we've come to the conclusion of our conversation. This is the moment in time when we always raise a question to all our partners. It is the following one, and I am particularly pleased to ask this question to you.
in fondo la cosa più importante nella vita.
What is the most important thing in life? You are so close to beauty, to history, to culture of mankind.
Cosa pensa?
What do you think is the most important thing in life?
domanda difficile.
Well, this is a difficult question.
Che io naturalmente mi sono già fatto mille
I've asked this question to myself thousands of times. Every single day I give a different answer. So what I will answer today is not necessarily what I would answer tomorrow. Today I'd say that the most important thing in life is passion.
tu vivi con passione.
If you live with passion every single moment, and if you do all the things that you do with passion, you're happy.
Se tu fai quella cosa perché la
If you
devi
do things because you are obliged to do them because they have to be done, then you do these things possibly even rather precisely and almost perfect. But in any case, you will need much more energy and you will enjoy yourself much less.
è piccolo, forse se la fai in questo modo quello che ti ricordi
If you do it this way, afterwards you will remember above all that you are tired and exhausted. If you do things with passion, you will never be tired and exhausted. Or if you are tired, then you will be tired rightfully so. You know why you are exhausted, because you did something in a wonderful way, and you will then be rewarded by passion. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much for your time and your observations. Thank you for having listened to what were possibly too many words.
ma la maggior parte delle parole che ho detto
But most of the words I expressed
secondo me
weren't just uttered in an effort to respond to your very kind questions,
è estremamente gradevole, ma perché
but
ci credo.
because I really believe in them. Thank you.